Hey everybody, Fetty here. I'm not an electrician, but I'm not afraid to fool with it. And recently I installed this sub panel here. And today what I'm going to do is run a couple of outlets on a real basic circuit. But like I said, I'm not an electrician, so please do your own research. I don't want it up on me if you turn your house into a piece of Melba toast. But with that said, I wired this whole house by myself, and it's the kind of thing that you can do on your own if you're just careful and pay attention to what you're doing and do a little bit of homework before you get started. Now, this is going to be a real simple circuit. There's only going to be 2 outlets on it for now anyway. There'll be an outlet right here, kind of a middle of circuit outlet, and then down here will be the end of the circuit, and there'll be an outlet on there. Now first things first, I know that there ain't no power on this sub panel. The breaker in the main panel is turned off, so I can get in here and work and not have to worry about it. Now I've already pulled some conduit and pulled my wire to where I want it to go, and the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and hook up this outlet right here. Okay, I've got more wire here than I need, so let me kind of cut this down to something I can work with a little bit better. Now remember, we're going to have to stuff all this wire back in that box, so you don't want to be working with too much. Okay, now I need to strip this yellow off here. They make these tools that you can just mash down and pull it. I can't find mine, so I'm going to use a utility knife, but I'm going to lay my finger right up there on the edge so that I know I won't get down in there too deep and cut my wire. Okay, so there's our wires. Okay, so right here is where our power's coming in, this black wire right here. Your blacks are carrying power, your whites are neutral, and your copper ones there, you ground. Now on your outlet, you'll notice each side has these 2 screws. Your gold ones, the brass looking ones, are the ones where your power wires are going to go. And the silver ones are where them neutrals go. So let me go ahead and bring these things around where I kind of have them where they're going to need to be. And then of course down here on the bottom, that green is where your grounds are going to go. Okay, now I'm going to strip off the ends of these wires. I'm going to take off probably about 3/4 of an inch because I'm going to have to turn that into a little hook. So I need a little bit to work with. Okay. Okay, my neutral wires on this side, I'm going to make a hook in them, and I'm going to hook it down like this. Hopefully you can see that. I don't know if you can or not. See that little hook? On this side, my black wires, I'm going to hook upward, and I'll show you why in just a second. Okay, so there hopefully you can see how I put little hooks on the end of them, and that's going to wrap around the screws on that outlet. So now I can go ahead and start putting my outlet in. This is my wire coming in from the panel. I'm going to put it over that screw. Now maybe you can see why I hooked it down, because I'm going to be tightening that screw clockwise, and that way it won't drag that hook out of it, it'll just go with it. Let me get that other one in there. So now I'll go ahead and put my hots on there. And there again, the reason that on those that I made those hooks go upward is because that screw is going to be going clockwise, and by orienting that hook that way, well, it won't drag that wire out of it. Now on your grounds, you might be tempted to take these 2 ground wires and just put them around that screw, but really there's a better way to do that. Let me trim this up a little bit. The better way to do this is to go ahead and twist your ground wires off, and then take just another ground wire and make a pigtail out of it and twist it up on there too. Then I'm going to take a wire nut and cinch them up together. And now you can use this pigtail to go around your ground screw. Now then, the last thing that I do, which is really a little bit of overkill, but I'll take me some electrical tape and wrap it around the back of that outlet so it covers them screws up. And that way, when you mash that back in that box, if that bare ground wire happens to lay up on your screws there, well, it won't cause any problem. Like I said, it's probably overkill, but that's just what I do. Now the hardest part of this is mashing all that wire back in that box, especially on one of these single gang boxes. There's not a lot of room, but if you work with it, well, you can get it back in there just fine. Okay, let's do that other one. Let's go ahead and hook up this last outlet, but before we do, I'm always amazed at what people pick up on in the background of my videos. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way, and don't be sweating my bomb here. This is vintage World War II. My great uncle Henry flew B-17s in World War II. He got shot down over the English Channel, like it killed him. But anyway, this is a training bomb from back in the day, and this thing's been in my family for nearly 70 years now. Okay, this is much the same as the other, except there's only one wire we're going to deal with. So let me kind of cut it down. Strip it off. Go back. Pull that paper off of it. Now just strip these wires. I'll go ahead and put my little hooks in it. Okay, now we're ready to hook that outlet up. Okay, let's go ahead and get this hooked up. Remember, your power wire, your black wire, is going to hook to that gold, that brass screw, and your white wire, your neutral wire, is going to hook to that silver screw. And since there's only one ground wire, you don't really need to pigtail it. Just go ahead and hook it to the green screw. Okay, now I'm just going to put a little piece of tape over it. Like I said, this is overkill, but it's just what I do. There. Now let's just go ahead and mash it back there in that box. A little more room since there's only one wire coming in. Okay, now we can go ahead and hook it up in the sub panel. Okay, the first thing I want to do is put a breaker in this sub panel. And this is a 20 amp breaker. And the way that this goes in, on the bottom here, there's a little round lip. And that corresponds to that little tab right there. And it just snaps in. And then this top little tab snaps into that shiny, scary part right there. So really all you do is just put it in there, and mash it into place. So it's in there now. So now I'm just going to strip off my wire. I'm just going to try to do it so I can go back and just ready to pull it. Get that excess off. And take it off. Now I just need to route my wires around and keep it neat. My ground wire is going to go up here to this ground bar. So let me just kind of wiggle that around a little bit, figure it out. Probably need to cut about that much off of it. My neutral wire is going to go to this neutral bus right here. So let me just kind of work it around. I'll probably come in about like that on that one. Cut some of that off. Now my hot wire is going to go into this breaker. So I'll just kind of figure out how that's going to go. Just get it generally sized up, trimmed down a little bit. And now I can go ahead and start hooking these up. And I'm going to tighten it down. And get her good and tight. And there we are. Okay, so I stripped a smidge off the end of that neutral wire. And I'm just going to bring it around and find an empty slot on that neutral bus right there. And tighten her down. And get her good and tight. There. Now on our breaker where the hot wire goes in, on the bottom right here, I don't know if you can see, that wire, there's a little tab that wire slips into, and that screw tightens down on it. So for the sake of illustration, I'll just go ahead and put that wire in there before I snap it in the panel so you can kind of see how that works. And I'll tighten her down. Get her good and tight. And I'll just go ahead and push it into the panel. Okay. So now I've got everything hooked up and it's good and neat. We're ready to lay some power to it and see how it does. Okay, I got power turned on, so let me go ahead and plug something in and see what happens. Just messing with you. Let me check this one. Just playing. Works good. Now that's how you wire up a really simple basic circuit with a couple of outlets on it and wire it into a sub panel. Now if you were hooking this into your main panel, the connections would be virtually the same, but it would look a little bit different. In a sub panel, generally speaking, your ground is isolated from your neutral. And if you remember, my ground bar is way over here on the side and my neutral bar was right there on the top. They're not connected. But in your main panel, your ground and your neutral are together and they're bonded together by virtue of a big green screw, usually at the top, that's run all the way in and it bonds all that together. So that's one difference that you would notice in a sub panel. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned something, but like I said in the very beginning, I'm not an electrician, so if you take a notion to do a job like this yourself, please do your own research and get your own advice. I'm just showing you how I did it, and I've done this a lot and I'm comfortable doing it. And this is the kind of thing that you can do on your own if you pay attention and be careful and just do a little bit of homework before you get started. Hey, as always, if you like my videos, remember, give me a thumbs up, leave me some comments, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.